This is Dave Rodecker. I am going to demonstrate how to create a Vicidial server. This is part of a cluster, and we've recently decided to move our cluster from physical servers to VMs, and so it's migrating an existing Vicidial installation. Took us a few weeks before we decided to just plunge on in and do it. I took tactical action to do it myself and thought, in fact, I recall having done this in the past and just thought, just to make it easier in the future for anyone else, hopefully we never have to do it again, but for anyone else that might come across this, this could be useful. We hope to not ever have to do it again because once it's a VM, it'll be a much transportable, upgradable more easily, but we may have to do some interesting things if we're upgrading versions in the future and such. So I assume that you understand and want to use Vicidial and you know how to use VMs and such, but let me just go ahead and spend a few minutes describing the steps in total. So there are multiple server types in Vicidial. There's a database, telephony, web, and archive server. We actually are going to use all of them. We previously weren't using archive, but now we're going to. But you can have it all in just one server, kind of the same process, but for where there is differences in the process, I put a hashtag migrate here that you may need to do something different if you're migrating an existing instance. So go download the Vicidial ISO. I initially found this hard to do, found a link online. The link was broken, but if you just search Google for Vicibox V9, that shows actually this link here, which leads to a dead link right now. But if you hack Google and just do a site colon and then search that same file name, it comes up with here, and then this is a bigger list of like all the Vicidials that work and all the downloads. I'll go ahead and put a link in there for this. So that's linked here. And then you hopefully know how to install VMs. You need to get that ISO file and make it a VM for the ISO for a CD. So that puts it right here. So when that's there, you set up a basic VM and start it up. I'll go ahead and demonstrate. This comes up, install Vici, and yada, yada, yada. This shows a bunch of steps, and then it presents the prompt to clear the disk. You just hit yes. It looks concerning, but if there's something already there, it won't work. To overwrite it, it says it every time. The steps to install each server are pretty much the same until the final step, which is you get the install the OS. You establish networking, you get the appropriate SVN version if it's in migrate, that's important. Then install Vicidial, and it's in the install of Vicidial that has some variation to it for each of the types of servers if you have multiple. So this is getting its way done there. So after that's doing the OS right now. And right when it's done, I'm going to come back and do a YAST LAN to set up networking and confirm that networking works before proceeding. So let's go ahead and see how that's doing. Still doing its job. Okay. The default for Vicidial has a password of root and Vicidial. So then you're in. Oh, forgot. Yeah, you got to select your credentials. Install, agree with the license. For me, I am in Los Angeles. So I click to Los Angeles, and here's where you put your password of star, 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 star. And now it will do its things. And now it's done. I can do a YAST LAN and set up my networking. So in setting a networking, notice the keys down here. It'll be much easier because I'm in a remote terminal, even if you're not. Notice the hotkeys that are lit up in yellow. So edit is an Alt-I, and static assign as Alt-T, and then I can start typing my IP address. And for this machine, it's this. I don't expect to be hacked. Hopefully nobody sees me as a target, but if so, I think I've got good firewall protection. But type in those 3 parameters, then hit Alt-N for next. If it's DHCP, obviously you can leave it there. Alt-N for next. And then host name, I'm going to Alt-S. And for me, I'm going to continue to put in Vicibox. I name servers local, and then I'm using a global as kind of backup. 8.8, and then Alt-U for routing. Make sure you have a route so you can get to the internet. Again, hopefully yours is a private IP. I'm using a public because I'm just that broad or bold, and feel like I've got things protected. So once this is done, make sure you got internet by just typing in a ping to Google. That's what I recommend. Everything being good, it's there. All right. So I know I have a particular version that I need of Vicidial, and I know this because I went into my prior instance, and in my prior instance, my SVN version here is 3426. All of the servers have that value of 3426. So when I come to here, I'm going to do an SVN to get that. And in fact, it's a little hard for me to do it in this here. I can't even paste the clipboard. So I'm going to go ahead and open it from a console, now SSH. And where I'm at here is because this is a migration that I know that I need to do a particular version of that 3426 I mentioned. So I'm going to go ahead and console and go to this folder. Oops, caps lock got stuck on. One of the weird things of using remote desktops with Hyper-V. And then this command here will get that version that I need specifically. Should conclude saying it's got that version. And then the that sounds good. Now I can run my Vicibox install. So I got to tell it my IP address. By the way, one thing I like to do is just see the IP address here before I do it because I'm dealing with so many servers. I want to make sure not to screw it up with the wrong one. In my cluster, continue with the Vicibox install, yes. I'm going to choose expert mode. Do you want to use this IP address? Yes. Will this be a database? No, I've already installed the database. I mentioned that the database install needs to be done. In fact, I'll digress for a moment. If the database install had not been done, and I need to do that first. So the order of operations of the servers is important. So the server steps, the first server to be installed needs to be done in that order, the database, and then I chose to do then the archive, and then the web, and then telephonies. So database, archive, web, telephony, and you can do as many telephonies as you want. So the database, though, when doing it, you need to do the database, get it up to its appropriate version, as we're doing right now with the SVN, finish the install, and at that point, then do the backup restore of the database. So going to the prior version of the database and do a backup. I chose to do the backup without logs and without archives. You can do it as you please, but there are commands with -- help. But DB only, without logs, without archives, mine ended up being close to 200 megs. That creates a tar file, and then you got a SCP to copy that file to your new server. So that's my new IP of the new server. It's actually obfuscated. Hopefully nobody wants to hack me, but the 10 dot. And then that should hopefully get your database good and going. Once your database is good and going, go ahead and get an archive server if you want it. Then web server is what I did, so I had a visual interface, and now the telephonies. I'm just doing the telephonies right now, and so that's where I'm at right here. So the database IP is different. So 119. And do you want to connect? Yep, default stuff. This is not going to be a web server. It is going to be a telephony server. This is not the first in the cluster. Now this is important. If this was the first time you did it, you go ahead and hit yes, but if you're recovering, you do not hit yes, you continue to hit no. Now there is a problem. If the server already has a record, you're gonna have to delete it. So I have a archive server as well. And it is using the default credentials. Hopefully nobody thinks they can hack me. This is not available except through our VPN. This server is not the archive server, and I'm going to use that version. So 3426 is the one that's there. That's great. I'm going to disable the built-in firewall because I have a much better one. Oh shoot, I hit yes. I hit yes, so I think I'm going to undo everything and start over again. And to do that, I just hit Control-C because I accidentally made the mistake of typing yes on the last one. So I'm going to fast forward this. But notice I just hit Control-C and then up arrow to restart the install. It's perfectly fine. I didn't finish the install. I stopped it because I made a mistake. Okay, now I'm back at the same question. I am going to disable the firewall, and I'm going to continue with the install now. So I got an error. There's a telephony server already there, and that is because when I go to the interface, I can see that there's a server record for this. And so in my list of servers, I have already a record here for that server. So I actually have to go here and delete this. You could also delete it from the servers table in MySQL if you didn't have an interface up yet. So delete this server, delete this server. Now I have to do the whole install script again. There's probably a faster sequence I could do, but nevertheless, I'm going to go ahead and do it one more time. And just to kind of repeat what happened here is that this is the error that I received. Telephony server already exists, so you'll need to delete that the server record and then repeat the process. So here I am repeating the process now. It is not the first server in the cluster. It is not. I do have an archive server. Let me fast forward to this. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and install. And I do know that I've been through this before and it succeeds. However, there's a couple of things that don't succeed. And one of them is that it gives me duplication row problems that seem ignorable. It wants to recreate conferences, so server conference records, and those are no longer needed. Or those are necessary, but they've already been there, so it's pretty fine. I'm going to go ahead and reboot. The other problem that happens is this the Vicibox 9 installs with Asterisk version 13.27, and you know this because you log in to Asterisk and it shows you that. But unfortunately, I'm going to refresh the page here. The default is that it put in Asterisk with version 1.4.21, and as a result, this ends up showing up in red here because it can't get the status of Asterisk. So if you're stuck on that, it's because when you click on the server record, the Asterisk version is incorrect. This is the correct version. And if you're not familiar where to get that, I'll show you that it is right in. Oh. right in the asterisk CLI. When you console to the box, and you type in asterisk -r, you'll see that the version shows up right there, asterisk Vici 13.27, but on Vici, it by default thought it was 1.4.21, and so go ahead and fix that up. Where's my update button? Submit button, sorry. All right, and within hopefully not too long, this will transition and become no longer red. Yep, now it's green. So that's the basics of installing the cluster, and hope that that works to accelerate your installation or migration if you were to do it.